Today we are going to build a TBR jar, hence the weird background again. I just felt like I couldn't do this in front of my bookshelf because I needed the space to properly write stuff down and pop it in the jar. So that explains the big jar we have here and the laptop and stuff. I'm going to keep it old school. I haven't got any nice pretty coloured paper or anything. I've literally got a 50p notepad, but I'm going to write them on there, cut them up and pop them in here. I feel like this jar could be a bit big, but I want to put quite a few prompts in so that it doesn't run out really quickly. So settle down, get a cup of tea, get a hot drink. I've got my cup of tea here and I've got a list of prompts from you guys over on Instagram as well as a few that I made up myself. I feel like I've watched these videos for so long and I've always wanted to do it because there are books on my physical TBR that have been there for years and it's so hard not to just read the newest ones on there all the time. I don't know if I'm being overly ambitious with this because I have at least 2 books a month that are book club picks and probably at least 1 that I read for work reasons. So that leaves us only down to about 3 or 4 books a month. I read roughly 6 books a month. Sometimes it's only about 4, sometimes it's about 9. So I think when it comes to picking from the jar, I will probably go for maybe 5 or 6 prompts a month, which isn't too bad. So let's get writing them down and popping them in the jar. I'm really excited about this. So the first one on there, which is one, in fact, actually, I might cut this up first. That's a good idea. This is not going to be pretty at all, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be, it just needs to be somewhere where I can write them down. Probably should have done this before I started filming, but I guess the whole point is to build it with me, and that is what you guys are going to be doing. I feel like I also needed lined paper because I cannot write in a straight line. So the first one on here is a book you've owned for over a year, which is good because the whole point of this is to make me read the books that I keep avoiding on my TBRs. And I recently did like a massive clear out of my TBR. There were loads of books where I was like, I'm just realistically never going to get to them. So I feel like now it's more manageable. This should actually help me get it down. I have not bought a book so far in 2026, which is really good. So hopefully it will actually shrink in size this year. That's my aim. So I need to write a book you've owned for over a year. Also, side note, look how cute my nails are. I don't know if you're going to be able to see because I can't actually see what you can see, but I really like them. How fun. Right, so the first one we've got is a book you've owned for over a year. So I'm going to fold that up. I'm going to fold it quite small. I don't know if that's too small. There's going to be quite a few in there. The jar may be a bit big, but I'm going to put them in there and then if it looks really empty, I'll get a smaller jar. But I'd rather it be too big than too small. So I'm going to put the first one in. The next one we've got is actually a book with an ugly cover. I very much do judge a book by its cover, I will be honest, but there are some books on there that don't have the prettiest of covers, so hopefully that'll make me read them even if I'm not drawn to them. That is prompt number 2. Have a tea break quickly. The next one is a book that someone else picked for you. I have a couple on there that my mum has bought me for Christmas. I don't know why I've not picked them up because her taste in books is really good. And I always grew up reading her books, but I just haven't been drawn to them. I think they're books I've not really heard of before. They don't catch my eye when I go to pick my reads for the month, but that's the whole point in this. So a book. My writing's already deteriorating very quickly. Maybe I should have done like a cute Canva, print them out type situation, but it's not as fun, is it? Oh, this one's fun. A book that you think you'll rate 5 stars. I like that prompt. And I don't know if there's actually that many on my TBR that I'm not good at predicting a 5-star read, you know, which does make it more exciting when you get one, but there aren't many books that I would look at and think it's going to be a 5-star read. Now I just want it to be the end of the month so that I can pick next month's TBR. Like, I'm creating this mid-January, so I won't be able to use it until the end of January, which is annoying, but at least I'll have time to get excited. The next one is a book with a 1-word title. I wonder how many books. I wish I had done this sat in front of my TBR because at least then I could have a quick browse and see how many I've got because I have no idea how many books on there have a 1-word title. Next we have a book with a face on the cover. I don't feel like, because my TBR I reckon is mainly thriller books, I don't feel like there's that many thriller books with faces on the cover. I can't wait to start using these and see how tricky or easy it ends up being. I really should have put my glasses on for this, but I don't want it to reflect the light. I like this one. This is the last book you bought. In fact, I don't actually know if I'd be able to tell you which one was the last one I bought on there because I've been really good, but I'm sure when it comes around to the next few months, there will be a book I've bought within the past couple of weeks because I have no self-control. This one's also really fun. It says, close your eyes and randomly grab one. I'm going to have to make sure I don't like assess the TBR before I do it, but that should be good fun. Although my TBR, I don't think I've actually shown it on here, but if you follow me anywhere else, you will know my TBR is literally just stacks of books on my floor next to my bookshelf. So if I pick one from the bottom, that could be tricky. I need to cut some more up already. I can't remember how many I wrote on here. There's quite a few. It's a few scrolls worth, so hopefully there should be quite a few. In fact, it makes more sense. Why don't I cut 2 up at the same time? Right, next, a book chosen by a random number generator. I guess what I would have to do is count how many books are on my TBR, which I've never done before because I think I'd rather not know how many there are. But count them all up, put the numbers in a random generator, and then obviously just count the way I counted, if that makes sense. I have a feeling this jar's going to be way too big, but oh well. A book with a house or a building on the cover. That will be like a Claire Douglas or something, surely. I feel like thriller books all have houses on the cover, so that'll be easy. I'll have so many to choose from. Well, I've written that wrong. I've put a house. I meant to put a book with a house. Let's try again. I like this next one. I added this one in, and it is a book that you have never seen anyone talk about online because I feel like it's so hard. Like when you spend so much time online and in the book space, it's really hard to find books that you don't hear people at least talk about sometimes. So I'm trying to make a conscious effort to read books I've not heard people speak about. So I like this one. In fact, I might even use it more than once. It could even be fun if I meet up with any of my book friends to get them to pick. To be fair, my friends would have to come to my house to do it, but I could get them to pick my TBR prompts and get them to help me pick my TBR 1 month. Maybe I'll see if I can get any of them down to Brighton because that could be fun. Okay, so to directly contradict the last one, we have a book that you bought because of Book Talk hype. I don't know if there's actually that. No, there is. There's loads. That's such a lie. But I tend to read them soon after I buy them. The next one is a book from the bottom of the pile. I don't even know what books are at the bottom of my TBR piles, and I'm going to have to try and forget that that's there because obviously I could just go upstairs and look, but I don't actually look at my TBR in detail very often. Like I said, I pick the ones at the top of it that I've recently bought or heard about. I rarely ever pick one from halfway down, so this should combat that, especially if it's a book from the bottom of the pile. And there's multiple piles, so I would still have options. The next one would require me not being home alone, which I normally am when I'm filming, but it's a book that someone else in the room chooses. So if for any reason I am filming and there are people in the house, I'll have to get someone to come in and choose one. If not, maybe I'll FaceTime someone. The next one is a book with a blue cover. I think there's also a book with a purple cover in here, which blue cover is easy. Most thriller books have a blue cover, but purple cover, I don't even know if I have any. And I also didn't do all of the colours. Maybe I should do all of the colours. A lot of these are to do with covers, but I guess you don't really want to read too much into the actual content of the book before you read it. Especially as me, I don't really read blurbs, but I'm going to have to with some of these prompts, I think. A book you bought because of the cover. I like the next one. The next one is a book you're really excited to read. And again, I feel like there's loads on there, so I kind of do that anyway, but it gives me a chance to still read ones I'm really excited about, not just ones that have been on my shelf for ages or something. I was about to say we're about halfway, but I actually think we've got like another 2 scrolls worth, which is good because at least it'll fill up the jar, but we are not even halfway through. So next is the book that's been on your shelf the longest. Why do I feel like I've already done that? Oh no, that was a book that you've owned for a year. To be fair, there's definitely some that have been on there probably way over a year because a year goes quick nowadays. I don't know if I'd be able to know like which one's been on there the longest, but there'd be a few that have definitely been on there for a while. And also they're technically not on a shelf, they're in a pile, so a book that's been in the pile the longest, or been on your TBR the longest, I'll put. Which I guess is kind of similar to the next one, which is a book you've been putting off reading. Maybe I should change that to a book that intimidates you because, was that? They're technically different things though, aren't they? Let's do a book that intimidates you. I feel like that's easier. And I feel like that's more interesting as well, because technically a book you've been putting off, well, I've been putting off my whole TBR for years because I just keep buying new books. So that kind of applies. How have I got through these so quickly? I swear I only just cut them up. Next is a book that makes you think of the future, which I find interesting. I don't know how I'm gonna pick a book that makes me think of the future, but I guess I'll get to that when I'm picking them. Maybe like a John Mars kind of book, you know, the ones that are like dystopian, set in the future type stuff. I know what I mean. A speculative thriller that is set in the future. That's what I was going for. A book that feels cozy. I like that. I feel like I should have put a summary one on there as well, but I might, depending on how many of these I get through, we could always do a TBR jar refresh nearer to summer. Because I like a cozy book now, but I like a summary book in summer, obviously. A book that you think you can finish in one weekend. Well, that's easy. That'll be a Frida McFadden or something, won't it? And I have so many Frida books on my TBR because I bought them for my sister from Asda when they were like 2 for £8 because she wanted to try and get into reading, but she gave up and gave them back to me. So I've now got like 6 Frida books on my TBR. And I do tend to read Frida books over 24 hours because I do a series on TikTok, which is my experience reading, insert book title, in 24 hours. Because I feel like Frida books are just those bingeable books, aren't they? A book set in another country. I like that. Although, would you know from the blurb if it's set in another country? I don't know. These are the ones that you guys gave me, I believe, because I put it on my Instagram and there were so many answers, which was really helpful. I guess it's time to cut another load up. I didn't realise how many I had on here, which is a good thing. I'd rather have more than only a few, but I didn't quite realise how many I planned to put on. Right, there's another load there. What was next? The next is just a romance. I could have done that with all of the genres, but really my TBR is kind of mainly thrillers. There's a few like literary fictions on there and then a few romance. But I feel like literary fiction we read a lot for book clubs anyway. Romances I rarely read unless it's summer, so maybe this will make me pick them up a bit more often. Next, we're back to the colours. It is a book with a purple cover, which again, I can't off the top of my head remember if there's even any on there, but that's the whole point, so that could be fun. The next is a book with over 400 pages. I've literally just almost finished. In fact, it's right next to me. I am just about to finish The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I'm on like the last section, which I know is the section that's about to completely emotionally destroy me. I don't know what happens, but I know it's going to be something sad. So I'm petrified and I'm putting it off because I literally got to it and was like, nope, I need to stop. I'm not ready. But my point was, this is just over 400 pages. So I don't know if I have many other over 400 page books on my TBR, but again, I don't look at it very often, so I don't really know. And I'm sure I will buy some and add to it between now and using this jar, I'm sure. I haven't done one that's the opposite, like a book under 200 pages, which I feel like I should have. In fact, I'm gonna add that in because who doesn't love a short book? Is under 200 pages a bit too short? I can't really remember how many pages is a normal book. I must have some. Should I put under 250? So I guess bonus points if it's under 200, but 250 just in case I haven't got some mega short ones on there. I like this one a lot. This was one that someone put on Instagram, which was a book from the decade you were born. Again, bonus points if it's the year I was born, but I'd have to sit and Google all the books on my TBR. And most of the books on my TBR, I would say, are published within the past decade. And obviously, I was born in 2001. If I then have from 2000 to 2010, that's much easier. But even then, I don't actually know how many books. There must be some. I guess we'll see. I'm racing ahead here. I'm going to put it anyway. I like this one, a book with a one-word title. I feel like I should have quite a few that fit that prompt. An author whose name begins with the first letter of your name. I don't know if there's going to be any books on my TBR with an author whose name begins with I, because it's a shit letter. You know when you get, in fact, this is a prime example. I want a mug with an I on it, but I's always just have. I saw Imogen Cribb talking about this recently in one of her vlogs, and I was like, oh my God, it's so true. If you want an I on stuff, they tend to just either do like a line, which doesn't even look like a letter, it looks like a line on your mug, or they do a capital I, which is also kind of ugly, and they never have them anywhere. So I have resulted to just buying different letters now at this point, and that's just something I have to accept. Anyway, I digress. I mean, I'll put it on there. If there's nothing that fits it, then maybe I'll do the first letter of my surname instead. Have I spelled begins right? Begins. You know when you look at a word for too long and you can't tell if it's spelled right or not? It's filling up nicely now, to be fair. Maybe the jar wasn't too big, although I think we've got about 15 left, so I might have to get a jar like half the size, but I was trying to be resourceful and use one of our cookie jars. I feel like we've got a lot of cover ones, but to be fair, I don't really mind. This one's a book with a colourful cover. That will end up being a summary one, I'm sure, like an Emily Henry or something. Although actually I don't have any Emily Henrys on my TBR because I've read all her books. But I guess it'll be more of a romance, probably. We don't get colourful thriller covers very often. Let's start a petition to send to publishers to start making thriller book covers more colourful and pretty, because the fantasy girls and the romance girls get these beautiful sprayed edges and special editions, and thrillers just have blue and yellow covers. So can we do something about that? I do actually also read things that aren't thrillers, but mainly thrillers. I've forgotten what I was doing now. A book with a colourful cover. I miss when we used to write everything on paper. It's not the same writing lists. I say that, I've literally got a list on my laptop, but you know what I mean. I might start journaling or something again. I miss writing by hand a lot. I always do with work and stuff. I'm always using pen and paper, but I miss properly writing. In fact, like writing letters and stuff, I wish that was still a thing. A book from an author you love. This is fun because I've got loads of Lisa Jewell and John Miles on my TBR. I've just thought of one off the top of my head that I might add in, which is a book with a blurb that begins with the word the. I'm going to add that in because I feel like we need stuff about the blurbs. Doesn't it sound weird when you use that word on its own? The. Is it the? Or some people say the, don't they? Like the dog. I think I spend too much time on my own. I feel like I'm going delusional. So after a book from an author you love, we have a book from an author you've never tried before. I also really like this. I want to try and find new authors that I like this year. That's another thing I really want to do. I wish I had more time to read because I have all these things I want to do, and I actually end up reading, like so far this month, we're a fair chunk of the way through January and I have read 2 books. Is that only 2 books? Yeah, and it was a book club pick and a workbook club pick. Like by the time I get through the book club picks, I'm over halfway through the month already. I just need to get a move on and read a bit more, I think. Anyway, a book from an author you've never tried before. A book that has more than 3 words in the title. I might also add a book that has 3 words. I keep adding and I'm going to end up needing to cut more up. But anyway, let's do that first. A book that has a 3-word title. I was only saying that because I literally looked at the last letter and realised there might be quite a few that have I feel like that's quite common, a 3-word title. And then I'll do a book with more than 3 words in the title. I quite like the fact I've done it on white paper, to be fair. I don't actually know why, but... Right, we've only got about 10 left. I like this one as well, but this could take ages. And it's scroll on Instagram, and the first book that you see that you own on your TBR is the one you pick. I can't write that down in those words, but I'll know what I mean. I think it was Instagram or TikTok, but I feel like Instagram I'm more likely to because it's just books, whereas TikTok will show me like a chicken recipe or something. That should be fun and hopefully won't take too long. This one someone added, which I was going to add myself anyway, which is a book that will emotionally destroy you. I think from the fact I'm reading the last letter and the fact that my all-time favourite books are always books that do exactly that. My mum literally said to me last night, why are you reading it then? And I was like, you know what, I don't know, but I love a book that I love a book that emotionally destroys me, and I feel like that's not uncommon. I don't know why we all do it to ourselves. I actually think it's because I like a book that makes me feel something, and I think it's quite a talent to be able to portray that in words. Like if you are an author and you manage to make people cry, I think that's an incredible thing. That sounds strange, but I feel like it's a talent to be able to do that. Although it may be strange that I enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. It will literally leave me feeling like shit, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. We are weird. Humans are weird. I'm lost now. I keep getting sidetracked. A book that will emotionally destroy you. I hope that's not on the February TBR because January has already been a month full of sad books. Although saying that, I want to read a Kristen Hannah and I instantly know that will be, I feel like most of her books, if not all, will fit that prompt. That's why I didn't have under 250 pages. I've got the thinnest book you own. Oh well, I'll put that on as well. And just hope I don't pick them near each other. I should have added the thickest as well, but truthfully I really don't want to read the thickest book I own, so I'm not adding that in. Right, I need to cut up maybe one more. We've still got a few left. Let's do 2. I can always add some more in. Where were we? The thinnest book you own. I've done a book with a prologue was the next one. Or have I done that? I can't remember. Let's just do it anyway. A book with a prologue. I was watching Liza Palmer, who also does BookTube on here, when she used her TBR cards, I think, in January. And she was really struggling to find a book that had a prologue. And I actually think it could be quite fun to flick through some and see which ones do and don't have a prologue, because you don't necessarily always notice stuff like that when reading. And you can't really do a book with an epilogue because you'd end up seeing the ending of books and stuff. So a prologue doesn't really spoil anything. A book you were sent from a publisher. That's good, because I've got books that every month I would at least like to read a book that I have been sent. So I like that, and I might have to reuse that. Where's it gone? I've got about 7 left, I think. The next one is a book with a picture on the spine, which I think is actually probably more common than you think, because, I mean, there's one on this one. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. This is really staring at me, but I do not want to read it now. I'm not ready. And I know I'm going to cry my eyes out. Right, I don't think I actually wrote that one down, a book with a picture on the spine, so I'm going to do that. There could end up being doubles in here because I can't really remember if I've just written that or not. Next is a hardback book. I only have 1 or 2 on my TBR, but I avoid them like the plague because I am not a hardback kind of girl. Saying that, I have recently kind of enjoyed reading them, but I would not reach for them, so this is good that this is on here. I don't even remember. There genuinely might only be like 1 on there, but at least it will make me read it. A book that was a contender from the last prompt. I just watched Emmy's video using her TBR jar, and that was on there, and I thought that is such a clever one because I might be umming and ahhing between a couple of books, and it gives me an opportunity to choose 2 from 1 prompt. So a book with an animal on the cover, that again with thriller books is probably, actually saying that there could be like, no, I feel like that is less common. I feel like that's more of a romance or that's definitely a fantasy thing actually. Although maybe this year will be the year I read more fantasy. I doubt it, but you never know. 4 left. The next one is kind of similar to the one before that, which was a book that's been on a previous TBR. I am awful already without these prompts. I have had The Girl Who Was Taken by Charlie Donnelly on my TBR since genuinely, I bought it in September. So October, November, December and January. That's 4 TBRs in a row that's been on. In fact, I need to read that after I finish this book because I can't have it on I was about to say Tuesday. February does give me Tuesday vibes, to be fair, but I meant February. I can't have it on February's TBR as well, especially if I'm using these prompts instead of just picking what I want to read. There are books that I've been meaning to get to. It could fit a lot of these prompts, but it's not the point. I'm going to get to it in January. But this will at least get me to read books that maybe made it onto previous TBRs but didn't actually get read. I like the next one, and I think I might do a whole video doing this, but it says message someone and ask them to pick you a book. I need to hope it's going to be someone that will reply relatively quickly, but I'll just send an SOS message. I'm sure it'll be all right. But I do want to do a video where I message all of my friends and ask them, if I send them a picture of my TBR, get them all to pick one. I might do that 1 month instead of using the jar, maybe March. I know I've already said it, but I just love handwriting, and I love handwriting on thin paper. I know it sounds weird, but you know when you can feel the biro through the other side and like it's printed onto the next page? I don't know why, I just love that feeling. It reminds me of being like in college and school. The last 2, the next one I literally just added, which is a cover that matches your nails. This could be really hard when I have nails that look like this, but sometimes I have like really pinky nails or something. So I've just got to hope that I, 1, have nails when I film the video, and 2, that I have nails that don't look like this, because that will be impossible. But I can always put it back and use it another time. I just thought that was something a bit fun, because a lot of the time my nails genuinely do match my read. I kind of do it a little bit on purpose. So I recently read Wild Dark Shore and I had like brownie nails and they matched perfectly. So that could be fun. And the last one I also just added, which is a book that you really want to listen to, because then I can at least have an audiobook from my TBR as well, if that makes sense. So I don't really listen to books that often, but I'm starting to more because I commute to work twice a week and I walk the dogs most days. So I have more time for audiobooks now. And so I would like to get through at least one book a month off my TBR by listening to it. Lovely. That is the last one. Okay, maybe I was right. The jar is a bit big, although it makes it more fun for picking actually, because, hold on, let me move this out of the way. Could that be more fun to pick with? Yeah, because I've got room to rummage, if you know what I mean. Like, I actually think that's the right size because I can always add more in as well, but that's a good rummageable jar. Is that a word? Anyway, you know what I mean. That could be a good size. I might even get a sticker that says Izzy's TBR, but that might be a bit keen. I'm really excited to use this now. I feel like I just want to pick my February TBR already, but it's not time to be doing that yet. However, one, if you have any more prompts for me to add, please drop me in the comments because I will definitely need to refresh this at some point or just add to it throughout the next few months. But two, I will have a video probably quite soon after this, which will be picking my February TBR out of it. So that should be really fun. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any video ideas, please do drop them in the comments. I know I always say it, but I really appreciate you guys being here, and any engagement with my channel and my videos means the world. So thank you so much, and I will see you next Sunday.